Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Worthit podcast. My name's Thomas, and today we are on camera finally. Hello, JD. Are you okay?
I'm tired, Tom. It's been a hassle getting all the equipment set up, and I just want to go back to bed.
Yep. Well, I know it's a hassle, but you've got to do it. It's the law. It's the new law. Every single Worthit podcast from now on will be filmed and recorded. Maybe not in this format. As soon as we get out of lockdown, we might change it up slightly, and
I was very scared you were about to tell me that it has to be recorded, stood up.
Yes, for the entire time. You know what I'm going to do, JD? For the next episode, I'm going to stand up for you, and instead of sitting down like I am now, I will stand up. I'll put the camera onto a tripod, and I'll be nice to you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
makes me
just for you.
Feel all the better.
Oh my gosh. So how's it going, JD? You okay?
Like I said, I'm tired. There's nothing to do with lockdown. I'm just writing scripts, and we're all just waiting.
Yeah, and that actually leads us quite nicely onto our first question. And the question was, have we done any filmmaking at all this week? And
No.
I mean, not maybe sort of for you because you've done some writing and stuff, so that kind of counts a little bit as some kind of filmmaking, I guess.
Does it?
In a way.
Does it?
What do you reckon?
No, I don't think it counts.
What do you class it? What do you class filmmaking as then?
The actual filming process, being on a set, recording something, that's the actual filmmaking. Because before it's just script writing. You can do that and it doesn't amount into the film for so many scripts because, you just look at it and go, no, I don't like it, and you throw it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. So I've actually done some filmmaking myself. I class filmmaking as any step towards making a story. But in essence, you kind of got to start and finish something for it to really count as filmmaking as such. So writing doesn't really count towards it because writing is it's like the start of something. It's not the finish point.
Exactly.
Writing, then filming, then outputting stuff is filmmaking, I guess. I mean, this podcast, for example, right? We wrote the podcast, we recorded the podcast, and now the podcast is going to go out live as such. So that counts. So that's one bit of filmmaking we've done. There's also the behind the scenes stuff for the tutorial bits and pieces that we've done. But yeah, overall, it's kind of all a go slow at the minute.
I guess
obviously
it's like
due to the lockdown and
script writing is the equivalent of putting your shoes on. It doesn't count as walking.
Yeah, that's very true. My shoes are on right now, and I've not really stepped very far. I could actually probably, I don't know, it's below 100 on the step count. That's it. Oh no, it's okay. 1,472 steps I've done today apparently. So I mean, I guess.
So I might count the amount of steps I've done on my hand. It's 3 from my bed to here.
Did you commando roll out of bed?
Literally.
Straight towards the laptop, and that's about it?
I didn't even get out of bed to put a shirt on. I just reached, grabbed, all right, put it on. 1, 2, 3, Here I am.
Fantastic. So actually, beginning of next week is going to be our first week in starting pre-production for our short film projects again. Because we figured that we may as well try at least to hit the ground running when we come out of filming and when we come out of lockdown, not out of filming, when we come out of lockdown, we kind of want to hit the ground running. So we decided to actually get on with filming all over again, start the joyous process with our first short film. And it's an interesting short film actually, JD. You're obviously doing the stunt choreography and all that jazz for it. How are you finding the writing?
The writing in general, or specifically the choreography for? Yeah,
the specific choreography, because it's something different, isn't it? It's not exactly, it's not writing, so you're not creating the story as such. The story's already there. You're just putting like A to B, you're putting moves together, aren't you?
I feel like I'm putting IKEA instructions for people.
Yeah,
I'm literally just saying, person A, do this. Now person B, do that, and just do that. Just do it.
Yeah. So obviously, I mentioned last week that the fighting sequences that I personally write in my own scripts are something that I personally can perform or can do at that time. So I don't like to do anything excessive or OTT that I know from, if I can't do it myself, I don't like to write it. Do you do the same thing when you write in the choreography?
No, because I know that I've been trained to take falls, tumbles, and different kind of attacks. I don't know if someone else has been trained to do that as well. So something I can do doesn't necessarily mean someone else can do it, but it does mean that I can teach them and give them an idea of how to do it.
Right. Yeah. So when we're actually making the film, obviously it's very good to have those days before going onto set where we can actually, sit people down and say, this is what we're doing and this is how we're going to do it. And then there's also days where we go into, like, for example, like a sports hall or something and practice those particular sequences.
Get some crash mats
and it's something, absolutely. And it's really interesting that we did for Hunted in particular. Do you remember that day when we all got together in that sports hall?
I do remember.
Actually, we put out the crash mats, and I had a view of the location that we were shooting at the time, so I knew exactly what it looked like. So I laid out all of the crash mats on the floor in a particular way, so it looked like the same set. So all we had to do is when we lifted ourselves up and took ourselves to set, it was the same process, the same thing. So
and it worked so well, to be perfectly honest, because we all knew exactly what we were doing in the first place. Yeah. And what's also quite nice added to that is we all knew each other at the time as well. So we'd all met each other, we'd all got on with each other, and things had worked out. So therefore, I feel like if we were to just turn up to set one day and try and do the same thing, it'd be a lot tougher because people don't really know each other. They don't know whether, how far to go, what they can and can't do. There's a level of trust that kind of forces itself in, especially in choreography, because you're trusting someone else to do something that could be very dangerous or even fatal, and pray to God or whoever that they're not going to kill you by accident or on purpose.
Absolutely. And we had some really nice input from all of the actors at that point as well. So we had the likes of Lish, who was stood there going, but what if we did this and came at this angle instead? So I really like that idea that it was a nice input from everyone as an all-round, giving their perspectives on how they reckoned that the thing would flow. And it ended up building the story more than it had done before. So when I wrote it, it was quite basic. And then as we went through the day of the practicing, we actually built on that basic level, and it was really nice. And it's something that happens on set anyway, regardless. When you make a shot list, you have like a structure that you want to follow. But when you get there on the day, circumstances change, and you change your shot to match what the circumstances are. It's the same with choreography.
It is, and like you say, anything changes. How many times did interview change scripts just because we thought something on the day?
Yeah, absolutely.
It does. It's not limited to just being on set. It's any time, rehearsals, sending an email to say, hey, what do you think of the script? Do you want to be a part of this? And then they turn around and go, well, actually, what if you did this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, let's crack on with this podcast episode. So, the 30-day film challenge, we're actually quite far into it now. And as you're viewing this podcast, we'll have done, let me think. So there was the first week plus another, 1, 2, 3. So that's 10. We'd have done 10 days worth of the 30-day challenge. So that's officially Ella's 10 films of choice, or 10 days up. And it's moving on to you next, JD, isn't it? It is.
And I've written my answers down and I've sent them over to you. And they're all ready.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is when we go through these next set of days as such, I'm going to get the questions up. I'm going to tell you about the questions and things like that. The ones that you've done yourself, I want to know why. I want to know why you've chosen those films as such. Okay. But the first few, the ones that Ella's chosen, we'll just talk about them in general and what we reckon ours would have been. Yeah, absolutely. So the topics, right? So the first one, I think it was the Saturday, was your favourite animated film.
Easy. No, I got it.
Is it? Yeah.
It's a tie between Winnie the Pooh's Tigger movie and Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Really? Fantastic. That's great. Because I was thinking there's like so much choice. There's so much choice. Like one of my favourite ones was Into the Spider-Verse. The Spider-Man film that they made 2 years ago, was it? 2 years, 1 year ago?
Something like that.
Yeah, and obviously the second one's coming next year, late next year. Cannot wait for that. And I loved the whole production of that film was brilliant. So the design aspect and the style of animation that they used was so unique to the actual thing. It felt like a comic book, looked like a comic book, was designed with the intention of being like a comic book, so it's brilliant. But then there's also, there's your 3D animation, there's, all your Pixar stuff, for example, there's stuff like that. And then there's the likes of Treasure Planet.
Oh, good shout! Treasure Planet's amazing.
What a brilliant film that is. I really like Treasure Planet. And something else that I really, really loved from way back when was The Iron Giant as well. which is also another good film. So much to choose from, but I would actually personally choose Treasure Planet as my film. I just love it.
You know, that's
just
fair.
love it, man.
I'll accept that answer.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad.
I'm sticking with Winnie the Pooh's Tigger movie, though.
Well, you know, each to their own.
Go on. What's the next prompt?
So moving swiftly on to point number 2, or for that matter, topic number 2. A film that you'll never get tired of. One you can watch again and again and again and again.
Avengers Infinity War. I have memorized a good chunk of that script, and people hate watching that film with me.
Bloody hell, I can imagine. So I've got one in particular that we must have watched about 100 times, and I even went to the cinema and I watched it as well. And it was quite strange because it's a much older film. Is it from the 80s? It might be from the 80s. And to go back to the cinema to see a film that is of that age as such, not in cinema anymore, hasn't been in cinema for like 20 years, 30 years. It was really great. But I love The Goonies.
Oh.
Absolutely love The Goonies. I could watch it over and over and over and over again.
Will you fire me if I tell you I haven't seen The Goonies before?
Oh, man. Honestly, just like I should go and watch Uncut Gems of Adam Sandler, JD. You should absolutely go and watch The Goonies. It's stunning. It's a really, really good film. And obviously I could watch that again and again and again and again. Okay, number 3. A film that you hate, but everybody else liked. So a film that you hate, everyone else liked.
I can think of a series, but not a film. Ready Player One.
Ready Player One?
Like the amount of people who went out of their way and were like, "Oh, it's so nostalgic! Look, it's Pac-Man! It's this thing! It's that!" And I stopped and I just looked at them and went, "You were born in the year 2000. You weren't even alive when half of these things came out. It's not nostalgia at all. What are you talking about? Shut up!"
Yeah. So I've got one that critics raved about, that the fans raved about, that everybody raved about, and it was just boring. Right, and that's The Irishman.
Oh.
Couldn't stand it. It was crap. I hated it. It was so long and dragged out. It's probably a really dodgy opinion. But so many people absolutely loved it, and they wanted it to win an Oscar, and it didn't win anything, and I was really glad that it didn't win anything.
Jesus, strong opinions.
Yeah, honestly. Didn't like it at all. Not a fan. So The Irishman would be my choice for that one. Not a strong opinion. I don't really mind. I watched it from start to finish. I did the drag. I did the whole thing. But yeah, it was definitely not for me. Definitely not for me. It's like that, and also when we make long-winded films, they just get too boring after a while, don't they? They just drag and drag and drag, and they just don't stop. It's like, come on.
It's weird to realise that there is fatigue on watching a film. It takes hard work to sit still and look at something, concentrate.
Like my mum is obsessed with Gone with the Wind. And that film has an interval in the middle. That's how long it is. It's got an interval. And it won an Oscar. It won Best Picture at the Oscars. I don't know how. Very boring. She loves it. I think if there was a film that she would never get tired of, I think Gone with the Wind would be the absolute choice for her. Absolutely. Okay, next one up is your favourite superhero film. That is a tough one. And you know what? I'm just checking the picture here. I think, I don't know whether it's a definite, but I think that is your first one that you had to pick, right? Or is that the last one for Ella? Oh no, that was the last one for Ella. That's day 10. So day 10 was your favourite superhero film. You're lucky there, man. You'd have had a really tough choice. A really tough time.
Does it have to be one superhero, or...?
It has to be one singular film. It can have a group of superheroes in. It has to be one singular film. So, like, for example, my favourite superhero film, I will go first for you. My favourite superhero film is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Fantastic film. Go for it, JD. You've got it.
I'm going to have to fall back on Endgame.
Oh.
I would put that... It's in a 3-way lock for best film ever, in my opinion. It's a 3-way tie, and I can't decide.
I think because obviously it's such like a culmination of events over the past 10 years that have led up to that final piece. I can agree with you on that, on the opinion on that. But Captain America: The Winter Soldier, rammed with action, Russo brothers at the finest. Love it. Right, next one up. A film that you like from your least favourite genre.
These are the ones I've already answered, isn't it?
This is your first one. Day number 11.
Don't mind me, I'm just bringing up my own answers, just so I don't make a different answer.
So you don't go back on yourself and
Because
change.
Lord knows I will. I've forgotten what I actually put.
So, okay, right. Whilst you're searching for that one, I'll go first. So, I really hate horror films. I'm very scared very easily. And I can't watch horror films. I can't sit there and watch them at all. If you ever wanted to scare me for a joke or a prank, put a horror film on for me and I'll scream like a little girl. Do not like horrors one bit. So, I always say to my girlfriend, I say to her, look, I'll watch a horror film with you, won't last very long. Honestly. I'll be out the door, I'll be hiding behind someone. I'll run away quick. But we went and watched It, the new version, obviously the remake, and I absolutely loved it.
I still need to see the second half.
It's a really, really good film. And the second one is really good as well. I really enjoyed the second one too. So yeah, It would be, or the It series in general would be my choice.
Love Actually.
Love Actually? That's a good film, that, to be fair. It's a really good genre, man.
Why
don't you like the genre?
Romance. I don't like romantic comedies. It's just...
10 Things I Hate About You is also brilliant.
It feels contrived. I don't like the genre.
Yeah.
I hate the idea that
Love Actually
everyone
Heath
has
Ledger?
to have a happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd rather something a bit more
cliche,
gritty and
it's very predictable.
darker, which kind of is why Love Actually is the nice sitting, because not everyone has a happy ending in that. Some people just end up single and they're like, listen, I'm not going to get the girl, but I love you. Here's the sign, Andrew Lincoln.
Yeah. Bloody hell, fair enough. Andrew Lincoln is also
absolute star.
Amazing too. He is brilliant. Okay, next one up is the polar opposite to the first one, and your second choice. It would be a film that you hate from your favourite genre. So a film that you hate from your favourite genre.
So my favourite genre is the one you hate the most. I love horror films. Absolutely love horror films. Do you know what I hate though? When you got a really good concept and it just you just kind of go, here's the good concept, and you just, whoops, I dropped it, and the ball just drops.
Yeah.
Havenhurst. It is the worst film ever.
Havenhurst. I have not heard of that one.
Oh,
and I
it's
don't
so
want to watch
terrible.
It
It's a really nice, good idea where the killings happen in this hotel that is designed for rehab. And if you don't stick to your rehabilitation, the killer will come for you. There's a concept there.
Oh.
It derails because there's this random guy who just kind of teleports through walls. There's no really actual explanation how he gets through the walls of the hotel. And for some reason, he's this bald albino man who just goes around and kills, regardless of if the people are sticking to their regime or not. And the whole thing just collapses. And then there's a news clipping right at the end. And the keeper of the hotel goes, it was me. I was the Lady Havenhurst. And everyone just goes, who?
Blow my neck.
It's garbage.
Cool.
Stay away from that film.
I'll try. I'll try my hardest to stay away from a horror film that I hate. So my most favourite genre is action. I'm a huge action person. Love it. Love the whole setting. My least favourite film, and it's technically an entire franchise because they're all awful in general, has got to be The Fast and Furious. No. No. There are some people who are going to come after you, my friend. I hate Fast and Furious. Do not like it. It's not. They're not like mega bad. I've watched them all. they're not really bad. They just get worse and worse and worse as they go along. Tokyo Drift was the best one of the lot by a long, long way. And then all of the others are a bit hit and miss. Let's put it that way. They're a bit hit and miss.
Apparently,
so yes, the last question for that
Johnson and
particular.
Jason
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Apparently,
Is that Hobbs and Shaw? I've not seen that one. That's the only one I've not seen. It's the most recent one out, wasn't it? So I need to catch up and watch that one. Yeah. I think they're getting better at making action and getting worse at telling stories for some reason. I don't know how that works. But yeah, that is my least favourite one. So JD, are you looking, or I was going to say you're looking forward to choosing the next 10, but you've already chosen them yourself anyway. So what I'm going to ask instead is, did you enjoy choosing them? Were there particular ones that you, I guess, struggled choosing?
Trying to think of films that just disappointed. There was a question, I think, on day 16? That was like something along the lines of what film just made you depressed.
Yeah, that is day 14. Yeah, a film that gave you depression.
Yeah, like that one was hard, but I don't know. Do I want to say it now, or do we wait until it's out?
No. We'll
can't give spoilers.
We'll have a little chat about it next week. Yeah. Whoa. yeah. No. Okay, yeah, cool. Now I understand that because I was looking through myself. I tried to answer all 30. That was one of the particular ones that I really struggled on. There's also 2 more that I really struggled on, and they are both in my 10. So my last 10, which is a bit annoying. So I'm gonna have to struggle along and try and find out.
We'll get to there when we get there.
The only way to find out is to watch a load of films, I guess, right? So it's good enough homework for me. So let's actually crack on. That was a massive segment.
I enjoyed it, though. It's a good segment
of the podcast. And it wasn't. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, and it wasn't even like the main section of the podcast. It wasn't even the topic of the day either. The topic of the day, JD, is science in film, and most in particular, the science of cinematography. Because JD, you asked a question the other day, didn't you? What was that question?
You sent a picture of like really satisfying pictures, and I just said, "Is this the science behind like visually appealing photos?" Because it had that weird grid that you see on cameras, and I didn't understand. I was like, "But it all lines up. Is this how it works?"
So the photo reference in particular, I might send that over to Alex so he can pop it in on front of the screen right now. It is actually a Instagram feed for someone. So if you go onto someone's page, you type in their name, you open up their particular page on your phone, it will show you their grid, or what their grid looks like. And this guy had uploaded singular images, creating a mosaic over time, which then created his overall grid. So when people click on his profile, full res images come straight up, and then when you click on individual photos, it's like mosaic blocks of different parts, like building up like a little jigsaw, and it's really, really impressive. But I guess let's talk science, right? Because science is used in life anyway, in general, for pretty much everything, right? Science kind of governs a lot of things because it, gives us rule sets that allow us to, abide by whatever. And when we talk about science in film, it's used in every single aspect. In every stage. So obviously, in the likes of pre-production, there is a lot of psychology in how we schedule, how we create stuff, how we write, how we storyboard, how we shortlist, all that jazz. And of course, we begin the scientific process of cinematography in pre-production as well, and that's through our shortlist creation and through our storyboard generation. And we pretty much pick our colours and our set design quite early on as well. Most importantly as well, when we actually go on recce's and film recce's, we actually go out to the particular place and we look at a thing and think, will that work in my frame? Will that look nice in my shot? Can I picture it? Can I not picture it? That kind of stuff. So basically, we use science to design our scenes, to design our shots, and the most important aspect of that design and of that particular part of science is colour science. Because colour science is something that you can actually study as like a further degree. I think it's like is it like a foundation degree? It might be a foundation degree. You can get a foundation degree in colour science, basically. And a lot of colourists and colour grade artists go into this because it's something that really affects how they colour grade products and projects for different companies. But cinematographers and director of photography, they're kind of the same thing. They also focus on the art of colour and utilising particular colours to give out particular themes, to give out particular emotions and styles, and show who's a bad guy and a good guy. The most obvious one, clearly, as I just said then, blue or white being that for good and representing good, a symbol of hope and all that jazz. And then red representing anger
aggression.
or aggression, or highlighting the bad guy. And something that we can really pick as an example is Star Wars, and the newer Star Wars use that heavily in all of their poster designs and stuff. You can see that a lot of the time whoever is highlighted on the red side is an evil person, whoever is highlighted on the blue side is a good person. So that's a basic way in which colour science can be used. There's obviously the colour space that we all edit in, which is Rec 709, and you can change that colour space depending on what kind of grades and feel that you want. But a lot of us work within Rec 709 as a colour space, and when you drop stuff into DaVinci Resolve, it just allows you to give that nice palette. And when we shoot projects, we tend to shoot them in log. So what log is, it's basically when you draw out all of the colours and all of the information from your photo, and you give the flattest form of the image that you can give. So an image that is colourful has a lot of information already attached to it. So when you secure that image, it's already got lots of colour in it. So when you you take your phone out, right? You take a picture of myself. Yeah. It'll show in the background, it'll show greens, it'll show black and white, and it'll show my colour of my top and stuff like that. That's all the information, that's all the data that's in the photo. If you shoot them flat, it will pull out all of those colours. So that green over there behind me won't be as green, and the blacks and the whites will be quite drawn and desaturated as such. And when you throw that image into a colour processing system like DaVinci Resolve, it picks that up and it allows the system then to add its own colour in. So if you're already adding colour into an image that is already colourful, it won't have as much an effect, and you won't be able to drag and pull as many details in or out of the image. But if you're dragging in a flat image, for example, then you'll be able to put more colour into that image, more design into that image as such. So do you remember, JD, I once said to you, the best time of day to shoot a nighttime scene is the daytime, right? Yes. Do you know why now?
Because you're not going to get the same reaction of colours during the night. So I would imagine you'd want to shoot very early morning, where your sky is more typically a darker blue, to give a more somber or quiet feel.
And the best day, or the best kind of filmmaking day for us, if you want to try and shoot nighttime scenes or scenes where you need to heavily grade, is a cloudy day, because it creates its own softbox over our thing, and it gives it a nice wrapped light. Because sunlight is harsh, as you just saw before in the beginning of the podcast. I had the grid lines on my chest because the sun was shining through the window. Because sunlight is harsh and it's hard to grade and it's hard to think. It's so bright sometimes that it gives like a distortion in colour, and it peaks. It's something called peaking. So obviously the light breaks over that maximum point that it should be. So if you use like my frame, for example, now, the lowest point down here is your blacks that are really, really low. And the idea is you put them as close to zero as you possibly can, because that's closer to true black as a colour. And then the whites are right at the very top of the frame. And if you peak over that, then you get what is known as like a clipped image. So detail is lost and data is lost. And you don't want that to happen. You want to have as much data as you can so that you can edit as much colour into it as possible. And that's why, shooting and grading daytime into nighttime is much easier, because you have that even light that you can work with. So when you're trying to shoot at nighttime, more often than not, all of your lights that you put in, everything that you try and do to make that scene as bright as you can, and the camera is working overtime to try and pick up that light as well. It's doing too much, and it's often a lot harder than you think to grade it as such. So that's, I guess, I could talk about colour science all day and how to give different examples and different ways. But basically, colours determine your emotion and opinion. That's one thing. The way in which we shoot to allow us to edit all those colours is we shoot our image as flat as possible and as neutral as possible. And, of course, when we go into edit, we try and draw as many colours back into the photo as possible. Obviously, once we've colour corrected. And colour correction is just when we just level it all out. Because what we do, actually, in colour correction, so if you shoot something that's not flat in colour, is colour correction just flattens the image so we can grade it. So that's the manual process, is colour correction. You should shoot it that well on the actual set day. You don't need to colour correct it as much. If you're having to do loads to colour correct it, then you've shot wrong on set, basically. So that's colour science and the art of colour, I guess, in basic form.
Yeah, basic.
As I say, there's degrees and parts and bits, and there's loads and loads and loads of different things that you can look up and research. There's Steve Yedlin, for example. He is absolutely brilliant, and he talks about colour science and the way in which he uses his cameras in order to, I guess, populate an image with colour and stuff. And he talks about shooting in different logs in very, very, very specific detail and uses these numbers, which blow my mind sometimes. He's on Twitter, and he works with Ryan Johnson, who did The Last Jedi. He was a cinematographer for The Last Jedi, and he was also the cinematographer for Knives Out. Have you seen Knives Out?
I quite enjoyed it.
Brilliant, really good film. But that is where I got my biggest example from daytime to nighttime, because they shot all of their nighttime scenes in the day.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, his Twitter page has full of information about stuff like that. So if you want to learn more, then I really heavily suggest you head over there. But there's other forms of science that we use within cameras, and most particularly the actual bodies of cameras and stuff. So that is like values such as focal length. You've got shutter speed. You've got ISO. They're scientific values measuring the amount of light in a camera, and they're also measuring the amount of times that the shutter can shut in order to trap the light in. And also, of course, focal length is obviously a meter measurement of the distance between the camera body itself and the focus. So that's also another form of science that's used. There's obviously the psychology of framing a shot. Something that's quite clever that people use to mask shots and stuff is like the Dutch angle. Have you heard of the Dutch angle?
There's a lot of things I have not heard of that you are going into today.
So the Dutch angle is when you... I'll do it right now, right? Okay. So in a horror film, right, we'd go like this, tilt it slightly, and then come back in straight again.
Right.
Yeah? So the camera tilts to one side and works its way back in, and that's a Dutch angle, right? It's an angle that's not quite straight. It's kind of slightly skew. It gives that sense of unease for when people are watching. I need to actually readjust my camera so I don't shoot my entire room. There we go, perfect. So yeah, there's a Dutch angle which is used. There's the way in which we use the rule of thirds in order to convey stuff. So obviously for conversations, your rule of thirds. If you see your camera, I'm looking at my feed now, so I can see my own camera. So here's my frame here, and then here is one side of the third, and there's a box and there's a box. There's the middle boxes and there's the left boxes. So my lines go down here and here and here. So there's my grid. Yeah. That's my grid. If you have your subjects, for example, on a conversation, one person is stood in this side of the third and one person stood in that side of the third, then that kind of complements, right? That's a complementary shot. But sometimes you can switch that around. So, for example, if somebody's looking off frame and they're a bit nervous or they're a bit unsure, it's a horror film or something like that, somebody's unsure about something, then a lot of the time you'll see they do this thing where they crop out the frame. So you see a lot of dead space behind their back, and they'll be looking, and it'll cut frame right here, or something like that. Just shows another sense of unease. Something that's quite subtle that you don't really notice, but you know, filmmakers do that on purpose. There's a really, really good shot that I saw the other day, and it was in, what was it in? Money Heist. Have you seen Money Heist at all? No. It's a Spanish drama series. It's on Netflix. Fantastic. Everybody's watching it at the minute. It's like #1 in the UK.
I've seen it advertised.
Really, really, really good. There was a shot that uses Dutch angle to like perfection. So it starts on the detective who stood in the doorway, and the camera pulls back and twists round to the side, and then goes over the shoulder of the sleeping person, and then focuses on the sleeping person as it rests. Perfect, beautiful. and it makes the viewer feel differently towards a shot, and it makes the viewer feel like either they're involved more or they want to be away from the scene or something like that. Any kind of sense of unease to make them nervous or on edge, then they do it perfectly. And it's a lot of thought process in style.
Makes them feel like something's up.
Yeah. So I guess something else. There's one more thing that I want to reference as well. There was likes of the way in which people use motion typography and title sequences, and the way in which they blend into the natural world as such. So like, for example, when the camera tracks through the woods and there's like a bit of text in the foreground, there's some trees, and in the background behind the text there's also some trees. The way in which people like blend text and blend titling and blend stuff into the real environment to make people feel like everything's there with them at once. That's another kind of psychology as well. So there's loads and loads of bits of psychology that goes into filmmaking to try and make people feel a part of something, in love, scared, vulnerable. Loads of different bits and pieces. Again, that's another area of science that's used in film. And then finally, the last bit.
One more thing.
I promise. No, there's actually about 100 more things, but the last bit we're going to talk about today in particular is lighting and using temperature to gauge a frame. So obviously we use Kelvin value in lights. So 5,500 Kelvin is the temperature of natural light. No. Did you know that? Okay, and then 5,800 Kelvin is what? What do you reckon 5,800 Kelvin is? Tom,
you're asking me like I'm a chemist who knows what a temperature is. All I do is I put a thermometer in and I go, oh, that's hot. Oh, well, I'm sick.
Well, unfortunately, chemists and thermometers don't measure in Kelvin, they measure in degrees Celsius. Kelvin is a physics style of measurement. So they use it in infrared light, ultraviolet light, stuff like that. So 5,800 Kelvin is the temperature of a warm sunny day. 5,400 Kelvin is the temperature of a cold day. And we use that value in order to white balance our cameras to make sure that, again, we shoot the shot as flat as it possibly can be. So yes, shooting in adverse environments will affect the way in which a shot will work, and it will affect the way in which a frame will be taken, whatever. So, for example, if you're out and about on a really, really bitterly cold day and you're hiking up a mountain and it's snowing, did you know that your batteries last a shorter amount of time? No. Yes, your batteries drain quicker in the cold weather.
Explain why my phone never lasts in winter.
So therefore you need to... Yeah, so you need to obviously have considerations and special thoughts for your adverse environments if you're shooting a documentary that's out in a crazy weather. For example, obviously if you go out and shoot in the Sahara Desert, you've got to think about dust and particles getting inside the lens and cleaning lenses and taking lenses apart every day and all that jazz. So yes, that is science in film in a goddamn nutshell.
Are you sure there's not one more thing?
No, there probably is one more thing, but I'll remember it once we stop recording.
God. That's a lot to take.
So yeah, obviously, if we, there was a lot to talk about there. I mean, we could have like about 60 episodes on science and film, but we'll leave the next science and film episode for when we bring someone like Alex or Ella onto the podcast. We can all talk together as a little group. So to actually conclude, science is a real heavy part of filmmaking, but none is more important than the camera that you're shooting on. No science is more important than checking your shutter speed, checking your ISO, checking your f-stop, and making sure that the psychology within your shots match the feel of your story and the way in which you want the viewer to feel in general. So yeah, and basically what today was to try and prove it was to try and prove that filmmaking is not easy. It's not easy. People have degrees in it. People pay lots of money to be successful. People take years and years and years to master what is a craft. It's a craft like any other job, and for some people, yes, it's a hobby, but in order to be good at it, you really have to grind for years and years and years and years to get there as such. And we're not there yet. I don't think I will be there personally for a very long time. Important word. We're all still learning.
As long as you never stop, you'll get there eventually. That's the important thing to remember with anything.
Absolutely. And I don't think it'd never be truly mastered. It's like anything, really. Like, for example, I'll use martial arts as an example. You can never be a master as such of a martial art. There's always something to learn. There's always something to develop yourself on. And it's the same with filmmaking. There's always something that we can do, or some other event, something new.
There's
eventually.
Always something.
We'll all be
new.
changing platforms soon, I bet. Yeah.
And if there isn't, there will be.
Yes, that is it.
You sure?
That is it.
Positive.
JD. Is your brain blown? Is your brain blown?
I'm tired. I didn't get sleep, and I've just been given a lecture for a uni college.
Well, in that case, then I will let you go back to bed, JD. And with that being said, that is the end of today's podcast. I really do appreciate you all for hopping along. I hope you enjoyed the video stuff. Hopefully it worked and you can all see us as well as hear us too. If you're listening to us over on Spotify or any other of the podcast hosts that we've actually got our podcast on, then be sure to come over and check out our YouTube channel. You can actually see our ugly faces presenting and doing the podcast. So yeah, thank you very much for listening along, guys. Be sure to check in next week. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. Something else,
probably another
something else.
Bundle
Who knows
of
what is in store? And science.
Oh, not more science.
Or maybe not science. But yeah, thank you very much for listening, guys. I hope to speak to you all in the next week. Thank you, JD.
No problem, Tom. I'll see you next week sometime.